All right, my loves, welcome back to another episode of the Energy Expansion podcast. I'm really excited today. Once a month, I do this thing inside of Energy Expansion Academy called our Energy Expansion live session. And essentially, it's a live podcast recording. So, hello to our live studio audience. And at the time of this podcast recording, it is June 30th. It is the last day of June. This episode is going to drop in just a couple of days. So the first few days of July. And so it just feels like the absolute perfect timing to do a mid-year reset, a mid-year recap and reflection. And so today's episode, I'm going to be pulling back the curtains and like literally bringing you behind the scenes of some milestone moments, some lessons, some wins, some wobbles, personally and professionally. If you've been listening to the podcast for any length of time, you know that I really don't hold anything back here. And as I am taking you through my process, I'm going to invite you to go on your own journey. And maybe you pause the podcast a few times and you jot down notes, or maybe you listen to the podcast in its entirety and then you use the reflection process that I'm actually going to share with you. So you can do this however you prefer. But one thing that I want you to know is, and this is going for our live studio audience, everybody who's tuning in right now, this is how you're going to be prepared. This is also how I prepare, like when I really sit down to create time to review, reflect, all of the good stuff, do like an audit of where I'm at, where I'm going, what's working, what's not working. A few of the things that I like to do is I like to have something to write with. I'm a good old fashioned pen to paper kind of gal. If you're more of a digital person, wherever you have like blank space to jot down some notes at the end of this episode, and actually really in the show notes, I'm going to give you a reflection process that you can use. So somewhere you can document that information. In short, that's probably the easiest way to say it. I also like to have, for me, a combination of my paper planner. I live and breathe by my paper planner. In case anyone's curious, I use a company by the name of Plum Paper, and it's totally customizable, and I am obsessed. And also for my business, I rely heavily on Google Calendar. So my digital calendar is all decked out. So when I'm reviewing, whether it is maybe just a month, or in this case, an entire half of the year, I like to do quarterly reflections. If you're in my world, you know that we do this big end of the year reflection in December. So I always like to have my calendar handy so I can actually look back. And I did a little bit of that as I was preparing for the episode today, but you might want to grab your calendar. And a little secret hack to having a really powerful reflection session is to have your camera roll ready. If you know, you know. There's something so powerful about, I don't even feel like I'm that great at documenting things, but I'm good enough that when I sit down to reflect on any given period of time, I like to scroll through my camera roll. And every single time, without fail, when I do that, there's so many things I would have forgot about that just weren't retained in my mind. But when I see them on my camera roll, I'm like, oh my gosh, oh yeah, I forgot. Like I did that thing, or I went to that place, or I had this really incredible experience with my kids, or, you know, within my business. So those are some ways that you can really powerfully prepare yourself. Okay. So we're going to be bobbing and weaving. I was telling the women before I hit record on the episode that I've got like all these different notes, and I'm going to share some personal wins, some professional wins, but a really great place to start feels like with the podcast. Oh, fam, this feels like right now, this feels like such a full circle moment because I recorded an episode, like it could not be any more full circle, on December 30th, exactly to a T, maybe even down to the minute and the hour. I recorded the podcast episode that would go on to be our very first one. I don't want to make this sound confusing. So for all of 2024, I was doing these live studio audience podcast episodes. And so come December, if you do the calendar math, in December, I recorded our 12th one. And I don't remember the title off the top of my head. Maybe some of you do, but it was basically like a recap of 2024 and then things that I was wanting, goals, intentions, desires heading into 2025. So it was technically our 12th episode, but I decided 24 hours later on December 31st to launch the podcast. That was not the plan. That was like not in the cards. And it happened honestly kind of on a whim, like in the matter of a few minutes. So much so that I hit publish on that episode. That was our first official episode. And I realized like I need an intro episode. So I just quickly grabbed my iPhone and in my voice notes app, I recorded, it's not even 3 minutes. It's like 2 minutes and 40 seconds of like, hey, we're doing this thing, this imperfect action we're taking called starting a podcast. And I want to do it before January 1st, which is a few hours away. So all of that to be said, the full circleness of this is the fact that we launched the podcast exactly 6 months ago. We are now coming back to some of the things that I shared with you on the very first episode, and I want to reflect those back to you. But first things first, the podcast has been one of the most fun, fulfilling things that I've done in a really long time. It's been such an incredible creative outlet, more so than I ever could have realized. It's been wildly expansive. It's definitely pushed my edges. It's invited me into new levels of leadership and like the way that I lead myself, how I desire to show up for you and the people I'm here to serve. There is a level of vulnerability that I've tapped into. I don't know what the heck it is about podcasting compared to other ways of showing up, but I feel safer to like really let you in here than I've ever felt, which is crazy because I've been doing this whole online entrepreneur thing, speaking and teaching and all the good stuff for going on 13 years. And there's just like this special energy with the podcast. So I just want to say thank you so much. This is going to be, I want to bring up my podcast stats really quick. We are currently, this is crazy. We are right now recording episode 29. So 6 months in, 29 episodes. We are just shy. We're so close to 2,000 downloads. We average like 70 to 80 downloads a week and almost 300 downloads a month, which I've said this a few times before. Like, I am not a podcast pro. I've never bought a podcast course. I'm just having a lot of fun experimenting and playing, and that feels really good right now, and that might never change. I don't really want to buy a podcast course. I'm liking kind of figuring it out as I go. I think there's something about my 1-3 manifesting generatorness that like is thriving in this, the imperfect action and building the plane like while it's in the air. That's essentially what we're doing. And so I think that those stats excite me a lot. And the feedback that I've gotten from so many of you is incredible. And yeah, so thanks for being a part of this. So I wanted to start with that. Some other big things. So I really want to start with like where, because let me just be really crystal clear. It has not been rainbows and butterflies, my friends. And so I want to start with where I'm feeling momentum and some of the things that feel big and celebration worthy, whether I'm just in it right now or maybe things I've come to the other side of. And so I want to invite you into that as well. A question that I have for you is, what can you celebrate right now? What feels like it's flowing? What can you acknowledge yourself for, even if it's not done yet? That's kind of where I'm at in terms of what I'm going to share with you. We covered the podcast. Energy Expansion Academy is my favorite place to be. Shout out to the women who are here right now. It is the culmination of, I don't like to say culmination of all of my work, because to be completely honest, everything that I've learned on this journey of entrepreneurship in 13 years, how do I say, I don't want to say it's not valuable because it's all valuable, but there are some things that like you don't necessarily need, right? I feel like I have this gift as an eternal optimist. And a lot of what I've learned the hard way, and I've invested in things that were completely unnecessary. And so Energy Expansion Academy is me taking the tools, the coaching, the resources, the rituals, the distinctions that have helped me transform my life in the most powerful, positive ways, and have also helped me serve hundreds of women. I've taken all of that and bundled it up into this beautiful thing called EEA. And getting to serve the women in there has for sure been a huge highlight of this year. And just recently, we launched a self-paced version of the program, which feels just so brilliant. And I don't know why I didn't think about that sooner, especially because I've been so passionate about how do I get these tools in the hands of as many women as humanly possible? And so that's another really big win and something I'm excited about. We just rolled out the self-paced version of EEA earlier this month, and it's doing really well so far. And so something that I've just been kind of thinking about is getting creative around sharing more of this and welcoming women into my world at all different levels, depending on what they're needing, what they're ready for. So there's that. I had the opportunity to speak on stage at the Energetics of Business, and I've been able to bring you here, our Energy Expansion podcast listeners, along for the ride. We have an episode dedicated just to that one event, but that was for sure a highlight of the first 6 months. And speaking has always been something I've been really super passionate about. Many of you probably know that it's been one of the number one tools that I've used to build my business. And because it's felt so right and natural and aligned for me, side note, to this day, it still feels scary. Putting yourself out there requires so much courage. Every time I go to press record on a podcast episode or press the button on Facebook or Instagram to go live, I still get a little bit of that, like the pinging, nervous energy. And that is like, that's a byproduct of allowing yourself to be seen. I don't know if that ever goes away. However, there is a magic to speaking and building the muscle of being seen and sharing your voice. And so I feel like there's a new level, although that's something I've been passionate about for a long time. At this point, it's also something that I teach. Shameless plug. If you don't know this, I have an iconic course called Magnetic Speaker, one of my favorite things I've ever created. I don't talk about it nearly enough. And so it's something I use, it's something I teach, but I feel like with the podcast and the opportunities that I've been able to create for myself this year, I've been able to take that identity as a speaker and as a thought leader to a new level this year. And again, it hasn't been rainbows and butterflies and it hasn't been perfect. And that's not the point. What's the point? Healing, expansion, growth, evolution. And if that's the point, then fam, I have understood the assignment. And I think that you probably have too. In business, we've had a really great year financially. Right now, we're rounding out the first half of this year, like neck and neck with last year, which is really great because out of my 13 years in business, last year was our second highest income year. So that is really freaking exciting and speaks volumes of the path and the trajectory we're on right now. I'm sure you're all feeling it in your own ways, in your own communities, but the economy is doing all kinds of weird things, and every industry is feeling it in their own way. And there's a lot of conversation in the coaching industry about things not working like they used to, or things not feeling as good and bubbly and however they used to feel. And I have picked up on that a little bit, especially because I've been in this industry for over a decade. But all of that aside, for the DKC brand to be growing and making the income and the impact that we are under the economic circumstances and some concerns and some uncertainty, I am like literally, I don't know if you can see, I am patting myself on the back right now. Like that feels big. That feels big and that feels celebration worthy. Okay, personal life. What's happening? What do my notes say here? Oh my gosh, fam. Personally, I feel like I've been talking about this since December. Me and my hubby, this feels big because January of this year was 15 years. Does the math on this? I think it does. 15 years since we started dating. We went on a blind date. If you guys didn't know, my husband and I met on a blind date in January of 2010. So if we met in 2010, it's 2025. That's 15 years, right? 15 or 16 years. All of that being said, tomorrow, July 1st, is our wedding anniversary. So 14 years of marriage as of tomorrow. And we are doing pretty good. I'm really proud of the two of us, of where our marriage is at and what it's taken to get here to a place that feels so good, like honestly, better than I ever could have imagined. And for us to be able to look at the life that we've created and the humans and like the way that we spend our time and the love that we've built. Feeling all mushy. So there's that. That feels like a big win. We have so far celebrated my son's third birthday. My girls will be celebrating their birthdays. My oldest will be turning 12 in a couple of weeks, and then my middle will be 10. It's so crazy when you like don't know how old your kids are. I had to think about that for way too long. So over the next couple of months, I'll have a 12-year-old, a 10-year-old, and a 3-year-old. Also, this feels really big. Guys, we got my 3-year-old potty trained. If you follow me on social media, I've created some really fun content to share the behind the scenes of stuff happening personally and professionally. But one of my favorite things that I created was the reel from my son's poop party. I just feel so freaking smart. Greatest parenting hack. If you or anyone you know is in the potty training phase, incentivizing your little human with a poop party, it's the smartest thing I've ever done as a parent. That feels like a bold claim, but I'm going to stand by that and literally just go to my Instagram, scroll down a little bit, click on the poop party. I think that the reel I made would make any little kid want that. And that was really what I did for my son. We were trying to potty train him for months and it wasn't going well. So we temporarily gave up. And somebody had sent me a social media post about a poop party and I showed it to him and I was like, hey bro, you want a poop party? Learn how to go poop on the potty. And he would ask to have a poop party every week, multiple times a week for months. And I was like, okay, well, you know what it's going to take. And before long, he was pooping on the potty. I think I've said poop on this podcast episode way more times than I want to. So we're going to wrap up there, but feel free to share my poop party reel. That was the last time. With any potty training people in your world, that feels like a huge win. So there's that. Something else that I feel like created this very interesting, it's for sure a connection between personal and professional. And you may have heard me talk about this in the different spaces that I'm in, but I did something a little unexpected. Like it wasn't originally on my list of things to do around like 2025 goals. But I participated in a financial fast through a membership that I was in. And the interesting thing about this is the financial fast had nothing directly to do with money. Stay with me here. So it was called a financial fast because the membership was all about women committed to building true wealth. So that's where the financial side of it came in. But the idea behind this was to give up something that we were using to distract ourselves, things that people were using to numb, to disconnect from themselves, to disconnect from their life experience. We're looking at where you might be placing your time, your attention, and your energy. And like the thing that you're pouring into isn't actually pouring back into you. Are you with me on that? Like there's not that reciprocal, healthy, natural, symbiotic relationship. And so I was invited to do this in January and I really wanted to participate, but I was like at moment in time, it didn't feel like there was anything that I was giving my time or my energy or my attention to until I literally heard give up Netflix. I instantly knew what I heard God say, or my higher self intuition, maybe a merging of all of those voices. I literally heard like give up Netflix, but I knew it wasn't just about Netflix, the app. It was about things that I was watching, consuming. I'm a big fan. I like a little like raunchy reality TV. Don't judge me. I was a Love is Blind. I would binge watch the episodes. Give me Real Housewives. Like, I could not live without watching the newest Real Housewives of the OC or Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. You know what I'm talking about. Does Vanderpump Rules still exist? Because the whole last series of Vanderpump Rules that got so messy, and I like loved it. I ate it up, and I realized that I was probably spending way more time than what was helpful or productive watching those things. And so I went on this financial fast, and it started out as like 28 days, but I did it for almost 3 months where I did not watch any TV. I didn't stream anything with the exception of a Friday or Saturday night. If we were going to do like a family movie night, I would sit in the living room and watch a movie with my family. But I, on my own, single-handedly was not watching any of my shows. And I felt like I got so much time back. That was a really cool experiment, and I'm really patting myself on the back again. I am really proud of myself for sticking to that. So I do have to admit that I've slipped back into a little bit of watching TV. There's a couple of series that my husband and I will watch together at nighttime. And outside of that, I've done pretty good. I'm a big fan of a documentary. So I'll watch like a one-off documentary here or there if I'm folding laundry. But sharing that with you because maybe, just maybe, there are things that you're engaging in right now, things that you're placing your time, your energy, and your attention in, and you're realizing in this moment, that thing, as much as of myself as I'm pouring into that thing, it is not given back to me. And that could be something really great to look at. We're now going to shift gears because we just did a lot of celebrating, and I needed to celebrate myself because now I'm going to share some of the areas where I have been stretched. The things that have felt uncomfortable, crazy making, misaligned, but also when I'm thinking about the things that have felt uncomfortable, crazy making, and misaligned, I can also see the perfection in all of it as well. One thing that comes to mind that I'm not going to dive super deep into here because we literally have an entire podcast episode about it. It's been one of our most listened to podcast episodes. But one other thing that I did that was way outside of the box was a plant medicine ceremony. If you know, you know. And if you don't, go listen to episode number 19. I'm like 99% sure it's episode number 19. So I had a little dance with a psilocybin journey. And since then, I've also played with microdosing, taking teeny tiny, like so small that it's not even really noticeable amounts of psilocybin. And it's incredible for helping you create new neural pathways, new ways of thinking, new ways of being. And that's been a really incredible part of my journey. To be honest, I was thinking about this over the weekend. I feel like microdosing after the plant medicine ceremony. So at the plant medicine ceremony, we consumed a full dose of psilocybin. I didn't really feel what I thought I would feel, what other people felt. I wasn't super affected by it. And so microdosing just seemed something easy to explore and continue with. I was thinking about it this weekend. It's kind of sneaky because like you don't actually feel it, but I feel like it's working more than I thought it was. There's been some really powerful shifts, like internal shifts in the way that I think, my belief systems, my identity, that feel like they're happening easier than they would have before welcoming the gift of microdosing into my world. So there's that. Some other things, we're going to get really vulnerable here. I think I'm like hesitating going into some of this. A pattern that I've been noticing, and send me a message if you can relate so I know that I'm not alone. Live studio audience, feel free to use the chat box here. I just got done sharing all of these huge wins. Given the amount of change and transformation in my life, in the collective, we're doing really damn good. Really damn good. Me, you, I'm going to include you in that if you're okay with that. However, there's been this internal feeling, and I'm setting the intention that this is also clearing, but there's been this disconnect between what is real. Like, what is real is things are pretty great. What feels like is happening in here is I'm behind. I'm not doing enough. I need to be doing more. It's like the voice of fear and scarcity and this grasping energy, this insatiable hunger is not matching my reality. Does that make sense? Are you with me on that? It's such a mind F when what's happening in your inner reality, like whatever your mind, your inner dialogue, your ego is trying to convince you of, is actually very different than what is happening out here. What's coming to mind all of a sudden is like body dysmorphia. You know, when there's like a disconnect between what you see and how you feel and how you think about it, I feel like I've had a bout of reality dysmorphia where things are pretty, I mean, I keep saying they're not rainbows and butterflies. A lot of things might actually be close to rainbows and butterflies. And inside of my head, something has me convinced that everything is falling apart and I'm like really far behind. So that's been this pattern that I've been noticing. And again, it's lessened quite a bit recently. But that's a conversation that I've been having with some of my own mentors. And I'm here to be honest with you around where I'm stretching. What else? All right, love, real quick pause because I have to tell you about something that is truly life-changing. If you've been in my world for any amount of time, then there is a 99.9% chance that you have heard me talk about Energy Expansion Academy, which is my signature group coaching program where I teach the exact tools, rituals, mindset shifts that helped me create a life that goes beyond my wildest dreams and has transformed the lives of hundreds of women that I've had the honor of serving. And for the first time ever, it is now available as a self-paced experience. That means you get to move through this powerful transformation on your own terms, in your own timing, and in full alignment with your life. This is for the woman who's ready to shift her energy, elevate her mindset, and finally become the most confident, fulfilled, and successful version of herself. Without the hustle, without the overwhelm, and without the second guessing. If you've been feeling the nudge to join us inside of EEA, then this, my love, is your sign. You'll find the link in the show notes or just DM me EEA on Instagram and I'll personally send it your way. Now, let's get back to the episode that you came for. Oh my goodness. It's bringing up this whole scenario with the tooth. I promised I was not going to make this whole episode about the tooth, but for those of you who don't know, I had a tooth extraction at the end of last week. And I was doing the thing that Dani does where she looks at like the energetic, emotional, and spiritual meaning behind everything. And the actual tooth that was getting pulled, if you're curious, was number 30. So it was like a molar. Like, I feel like you need all your teeth. And I'm actually really grateful that it was like back here and not like my front tooth or something. Some of the energetic and spiritual connection was unresolved grief and sadness. And I think that it made me realize I've never felt safe to feel those things. I've already on the episode today referred to myself as the eternal optimist. And I love that part of me. It's like one of my favorite parts of me. I think that's part of me is magic. And also my body so deeply wants to express more of the full range of emotion. And when I'm in those deeper emotions, not completely abandon myself, not lose all of the love and the acceptance and the belonging that I have for myself. And so when you don't feel your feels, your body's going to make you feel your feels. Last week, I jokingly told a friend, I would rather have my teeth pulled out than have to feel some of the things. And that is what happened. So I said a prayer that with that tooth, like while the dentist was working on it, I was like, it's okay, baby girl, just go. It's safe to go. You're safe to leave. And like, please, for the love of God, take all of it with you. Take all of the energy, take all of the emotions with you. And so I feel like a big part of this year has been me learning how to not only feel the feels, which is so interesting because like this is what I do, right? It's what I teach. And I also love to believe that I am embodied in everything I teach. And also doesn't mean that it comes easily for me. I talk about being a coach when it comes to energy and mindset mastery, and emotion is energy in motion, right? So there's like all of these components, but I think the lesson this year is not just feeling the emotions, but is learning how to have my own back, is learning how to not lose love for myself, not abandon myself when I'm in those lower emotions that are more uncomfortable to feel. Like that's been a huge part of this journey. So that's some of the places where I feel like I'm being stretched. Funny enough, a lot of it is around energy and mindset. That's what all of this is, right? I'm going to take one more quick peek at my notes here, see if there's anything else that I was wanting to share. Looking back I literally pulled up my notes for the episode when I did the 2024 recap and then the stepping into 2025. And some of the things that I said was I was going to be more intentional with my time. I feel like if we were going to rate this, I feel like I'm an 8.5 out of 10. I'm pumped about that. I shared here that I was going to be leveraging certain apps. There's an app that I love called Timelines. It's a time tracker. I've been using that on and off. It's not something I feel like I need to use all day, every day, but I'll track my time for like a week or two each month just to see, am I actually doing what I said I was going to do? Or if I feel like I'm not as present with my family, or if I feel like I'm working more than I want to be, then I will actually time myself. So I have data in front of me that I can work off of. So I've been leveraging the Timelines app, my Habit app, spending a lot more time celebrating myself than I did in previous years. That feels really, really good. I did say that I wanted to read one book per month. We're 6 months in, but not 6 books in. I've completed the Let Them Theory. Shout out to everybody who was in our Let Them Theory book club. There's also another book that I finished cover to cover. It was called Meditations for Mortals, and it was really great. Just these bite-sized lessons every day. And almost done with a book called The Mountain Is You. Almost done with 10x is easier than 2x. Almost done with good energy. So in true manifesting generator fashion, I'm going to use this as a little excuse. I don't know if you knew this, but I don't know if it's the 1-3 line or just the manifesting generators. We are not meant to finish things cover to cover. I really like finishing things cover to cover, but it's very aligned and correct for me to get excited, to pick up the course, to pick up the book, to start the podcast episode, to get whatever feels good and right and to set it down. And I may or may not come back to it. And if I don't come back to it, that's okay. There's nothing bad or wrong about that. And so I still want to prioritize reading. I was going to say learning. I'm learning all the live long day, but really reading a good book in my hand or an audio book versus like a raunchy podcast or a show. So that's where we're at with that. Yeah, I think we covered, continue daily love letters and daily devotional. Crushing it. Crushing the game. We are at day, I want to say 313 daily love letters and the unshakable devotional. And I'm so pumped, fam, because the author of this, Christine Kane, I was at church yesterday and there is a women's conference at the end of summer and she's the keynote speaker. And I haven't bought my ticket yet. I'm going to buy my ticket. It's Labor Day weekend, so I have to make sure we're in town. But if I get my happy butt there, I'm going to take my devotional and I'm going to take a picture with Miss Christine Kane. I've been sticking with it. So that is my ins and outs, my recap for the first half of 2025. Really, really, really proud of myself all around. I can clearly see where I want to step more into certain areas where maybe I haven't been playing all out, full out. In case you forgot, my theme, my word for the year is own it. And I think in some areas I've been crushing it. And in other areas, I've still been a little like, ooh, is it safe? Is it safe to own it there? Is it safe to be unapologetic there? And so I'm really excited to continue playing with that theme. I'm going to stick with that theme for the rest of 2025. I hope that you enjoyed this. I'm going to post the reflection questions that I guide myself through, that I'm going to be guiding my clients through right after we wrap this up. And I'm really excited to hear from you about your first half of 2025. What's working? What's not working? What are your wins? What are your wobbles? And like I just mentioned, kind of as we're closing out, represencing my theme. Normally I choose a word. This is the first year that I've chosen a theme, again, which is own it. I would encourage you to look at, did you choose a word or a theme for this year? And how is that going for you? This is not an opportunity to slip into tons of self-judgment and criticism. I really want to encourage you to look at this from the lens of love. And maybe you're like me, where you can see you've been thriving in some aspects around what it is that you want and where you get to step into that even more. And then you might even be like, I don't know what. I forgot what my word or my theme is. And maybe you want to realign. Maybe you want to choose something right now. Or maybe you're just stumbling upon the podcast and this is all brand new to you. And this is a really great time to choose. What do you want the second half of 2025 to look like and to feel like for you? So without further ado, I love you so, so, so much. I hope you enjoyed tuning in as much as I loved being here and creating this with you and for you. And we will see you on the next one.